Sunday Surefire Podcast. I'm your host, the Commish. Joining me today is the co-host, Aaron Downtown Brown.
Hey, hey.
Aaron, week three's behind us, my man. What's all good with you?
Now football is officially back. That was a pretty exciting week 3 of football, I must say. A lot of scoring. I like to see that in fantasy.
Yeah, there were points all over the board. Good if you were betting overs, good if you were playing fantasy. That's the stuff we miss all year round. And it already feels like the season's flying by. We're rounding into week 4 here. You know, that was always like the quarter mark of the season when they played 16 games, but it's kind of crazy how fast it goes. So just make sure out there that you're enjoying these football moments while we have them, just based on how long the off season is. But before we get into any of that doom and gloom talk about the off season and all that, we do have a lot of football ahead of us. And to make sure that you're never missing a moment of the Sunday Surefire content, make sure you're following us both on X at Sunday_Surefire and on Discord as well. We're on there at Sunday Surefire. We actually linked our Discord to our Twitter or our X page. So make sure you're checking that out too. And we have a lot of different things on there that we offer for our followers. You know, we have NFL picks, we have college picks, we have DFS plays, obviously. That's a lot of the stuff that we talk about on these episodes. You can find on there as well. We got some fun parlays that we put together. We even go outside the box a little bit and we do some MMA betting as well. So we kind of have some analysts who kind of check out all kinds of sports and mostly betting things on the betting front. So make sure that you're taking the time to follow us on Discord as well, on Twitter too. And you know, we're all over the place now. So we are very much accessible, which is great. But today we're talking DFS. We're moving on to week 4, turning the page. And as always, we're going to start with the told you so's. So Aaron, I know you crushed it last week. You actually won our little 3-way head to head last week, which is good for you. But so I'll give you the floor here. Who are you shouting out this week in your told you so segment?
You like that? You like that?
Yeah, I think as we mentioned, pretty, a lot of scoring last week. I'm glad a lot of us were on the positive side of that. I think I ended up with like 191 points, so pretty good week, like you said, in our matchup. But I know we both agreed on the stack with Cousins and Justin Jefferson. Cousins gave you 29 points, kind of through quite a bit of yards, 367, 3 tutties. JJ, 7 receptions, 149 in a tutty, another 30 points. And then one of my favorite picks from last week was Tank Dell, 5 receptions, 145 yards with a touchdown, scored you 28 points. But the best part about that, he was only 3,600 last week. I love that play. And then I think we crushed it with the Bills defense as well. 9 sacks, 4 interceptions, fumble recovery, touchdown as well. Gave you 32 points. So huge if you had some of those guys in your lineup last week. What about you, Commissioner?
You you hit the nail right on the head there. That Tank Dell call was great. Those are the plays that really make the difference in your lineup. And that's why we spend so much time talking about the pick 6 category and those players that are undervalued. They're gonna outperform the cost that you're investing to get them in your lineup. So definitely kudos to you on that one. That was a great call. A little bit more of the same here. I'll just rattle it off quickly. Like the Bills defense, the 32 points, Cousins, the Jefferson stack. You know, those guys together were great for fantasy. I was on those guys as well, and that's why I finished just behind you in the second spot. So that's what we got there for told you so's, and we'll just dive right in here, my man. We'll talk about bullish buys, high profile players that are expensive to get into your lineup, but guys that are worth paying up for, Aaron. So in week 4, who are you paying up for to get? Make sure that you have them in your lineup because they're going to go off this week.
Yeah, I'm paid a kind of a hefty penny this week. My bullish buy section. Don't always do this, but I'm going high dollar quarterback here. 8,200. I'm going top play of the week. Josh Allen. Kind of zoning in on that Miami Buffalo game. I think we do that from time to time, looking at what's the total points scored right now. That over is 53.5. I mean, the Dolphins are just coming from a 70-point victory as well. So think a lot of scoring should be happening, but I actually like Josh Allen in this matchup. I think it's a huge game for the Bills in this division, kind of, facing off against that hot Miami team. Bills are actually favored, and I kind of agree with that. I think I think, this is a big time game, and it's kind of one of those where, you're going to want to get like your Allens, your Mahomes, and guys like that in matchups like this. So, give me Josh Allen top of the list at QB, but I think he's going to show up this week. So hefty penny, like I said, 8,200, but that's what I'm going with my bullish buy this week.
That is definitely the game of the week that is going to be circled by a lot of people who play fantasy, who are on the betting scene. Anyone invested in points being put up on the board, that's the game I think people are going to gravitate towards this week in a way similar to the Chargers and Vikings games was from a week ago. So I am also honing in on that game as well for my bullish buy. And I'm actually going on the other side of it, to the Miami side, and I'm going to make Tyreek Hill my bullish buy for $9,200 at Buffalo. Look, is the price tag high here? Yes. Is the matchup tough on paper? Yes. The Bills are very good against the pass. Do I care? Hell no, man. Like, Hill is quickly becoming one of these players that is a must start in daily lineups where you just plug him into your lineup as soon as you open up the app, and then you go on and start filling out the rest of your lineup. The guy is just so damn explosive and plays in such a wide receiver friendly scheme, and he's averaging double digit targets. Like, what else do I want here from a team? Oh, what's one more thing we could tack onto that? Yeah, he finds the end zone every week too. Like, the guy scores every single week. Like, so yeah, he's crazy expensive to get into your lineup. The matchup's less than ideal on paper, but this is one of those guys who just breaks fantasy football when he goes off, and he's capable of doing that every single time he steps on the field and every single time he catches the ball. And I also am in on the guy throwing him the ball. I'm stacking again this week. I'm putting Tua in my lineup. He's a little bit cheaper than Allen, 7,400. I just want pieces of this game, and I want pieces of this Miami offense. Who I don't know if you know this, Aaron, but they just put up 70 points last week. Yeah, I'm trying to kind of strike while the iron's hot in this Miami unit while they're just absolutely rolling early in the season. So that's my guy here, Tyreek Hill. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, Tyreek's kind of hard to argue with. Yeah, I mean, what's not to like about Tyreek? I mean, he could easily had 60 points. I mean, he hit out of his 30-point week, he pretty much had most of that in the first half. So that was even after they eased off the gas. They ended up scoring 72. So if he's scoring 30 points in his sleep, definitely interesting to see what's going to happen in this Miami Buffalo game. So, like I said, I'm kind of on the other end of it. I just want to, I wanted Josh Allen. There's rushing upside too, but yeah, love Tyreek on as a wide receiver this week. I'll go ahead and call out Ethan's pick this week too. He phoned in his picks. I know he went back and forth. We had some fun dialogue in our group chat there, but he ended up going with Keenan Allen, another wide receiver just coming off of a huge week. I mean, man, he might be one of the best receivers over 30 right now in the NFL, making a nice return with Herbert. But kind of looking at that LA Raiders matchup, it is in Vegas. But yeah, I think Allen's another good it's another good matchup for him. I know sometimes it's tough picking players that just come off of big weeks. But I think you did it with Tyreek and Keenan and whatnot as well. So I still think just the matchup's too good to be true. So I don't mind it at all. I like it. What do you think with Keenan Allen this week?
I like Keenan Allen this week. Obviously, the Mike Williams ACL injury is a tough one. Really brutal for him, who was off to a good start this season. It's but I think it's just going to be slant more work towards Keenan Allen's way. Definitely the number one in that offense, and he's still humming even despite being on the wrong side of 30. Good matchup this week. I don't have any complaints whatsoever on Keenan Allen, and that's going to put a pin in the bullish buy category. Let's move on to the defense this year, our too deep segment. I'll start this one off here. What I'm doing is I'm going with an expensive unit here. So I'm going expensive at receiver, expensive at defense. So I'll be getting a little bit creative a little bit later down the board. But I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles against the Washington Commanders. The game's in Philadelphia. And I don't know if you got a chance, Aaron, to check out what Sam Howell did on Sunday against a competent Bills defense. Just a quiet day at the offense for that for the Commanders. They had 4 interceptions, 9 sacks, and a pick six. And all that came in their home building. And now he gets the opportunity to travel to the black hole of humanity that is Philadelphia. Like, come on now. For $4,100, yeah, it's a little expensive, but get me the Eagles in my lineup here, my man. Like, this unit is good too. Like, it's not just the opponent. Like the Eagles themselves have returned 9 points in all 3 of their games so far in 2023. And with a young quarterback coming off a shaky performance, I want Philadelphia in my lineup this week on defense.
Yeah, I looked at that game. I like that play with Philadelphia. I myself went back and forth with the defenses. I at first I was ready to pay up on one of the, some of the top defenses. You got the Niners close to 5,000 playing against the Cardinals. Of course, the Eagles game. I even thought about throwing Cowboys in there too against your beloved Patriots, but I decided to switch it up. I'm kind of going with more my normal route. I want to try to find the cheaper defense, so I think has a chance pulling out, 8 to 12 points on the defensive side. So I'm gonna go with a defense that's second in the league in sacks with 12. And no, it's not the Dallas Cowboys who have 12 sacks. It's the other team, and that's the Indianapolis Colts. Okay. Indianapolis Colts, they're playing in Indy. Coming off that big win. They're playing the Rams this week, who the Bengals kind of held them to kind of a mediocre game. Bengals held him to about 220 passing yards with Stafford, and he threw 2 picks. I definitely think that the Rams are kind of slowing down a little bit. They're beginning of the year or for week 1, they kind of were surprising me, but I think possibly your boy Nakua might be slowing down slightly. And then just the overall that offense might be kind of showing tells over how the rest of the season is going to go. So I think, regardless if Anthony Richardson's back or Minshew, I actually think if A-Rich is back, it should slow the game down even more. But the biggest stat I wanted to call out was the 12 sacks with Indianapolis. So of course, those get you, let you creep up in points on the defense. So that's why I went a little cheaper this week with Indianapolis.
Don't you dare ever insinuate that my boy Puka Nakua is going to slow down. Like, stop. Like, what's wrong with you? Okay. Yeah, I mean, the Colts, they're a nice home game. That dome can get rocking when the fans are really getting into it. The Rams are going to be there coming off a Monday night game on a short week traveling. So, yeah, a lot of things are lining up there for the Colts, and it's actually a nice little spot to save a little bit of money if that's what you want to do as well. They were my second choice for this week. So you will get no argument from me on that front, sir. But let's move along here. Let's get into the pick 6 category. These are players that you can get into your lineup for less than $5,000. These are the guys like Tank Dell from last week, where you got him in there super cheap and he blew up, won you some money in all likelihood. So these guys are the money winners. So who's your first guy in this category, Aaron? Who's going off at a cheap price?
Ooh, so I may throw a little debatable guy here, but I'm gonna go 5,200. I'm going with the beloved fantasy darling the last couple of years. I'm gonna go with Michael Thomas. I think a lot of fantasy owners just cringe when they hear his name, but I mean, honestly, Mike Thomas has went off to a pretty good start here in 2023. We're looking at 8 targets week 1, 9 targets week 2, and 9 targets week 3, right? So he definitely is pacing Olave in targets. Olave gets some more of the deep shots. But I'm kind of right now in this play with only 5,200. I want to get the PPR points. He gets red zone looks. But then even if you rewind the clock, even just to last year, the games he did play, the first 2 games of the year last year, had 122 yards, 3 touchdowns. But do you know who was throwing him the ball in the first 2 games of last year?
Was it Jameis Winston?
That would be Mr. Jameis Winston. And do you know who's throwing him the ball this Sunday?
That would be Mr. 30 for 30 himself, Jameis Winston.
Yes, that would be Mr. Winston again. So familiar face. I think it showed after Carr got hurt in the New Orleans game of this past weekend. Thomas actually only had 2 targets the first half. Then he got another 7 after Winston entered the game. So Winston does target him, but I think either quarterback was getting him involved in the offense. So I like the looks he's getting this year. I think he is looking pretty good. And that Tampa Bay secondary has been known to give up some fantasy points to wide receivers. So I'm actually going with the guy that not many people like, but I'm going Michael Thomas this week for 5,200.
It's a little too pricey for Michael Thomas for me, to be honest with you. And like 5,200 does not break the bank by any means, but I think I'd just rather spend it elsewhere. The Bucks defense, if you watched them on Monday night, they gave up a ton to AJ Brown. It was a big bounce back game for him, but like the Slim Reaper was pretty quiet as the second receiver in that game plan. I think he was even under 30 yards he was held. So I'm a little worried that they obviously go back to Winston, who's been around the league, and he can sling it. We know that. I just don't know how much they're going to let him do it in this spot. I think this is going to be kind of a hard-nosed divisional game. Like these Saints and Bucks games get really chippy, and it's almost like a point of like who can out-battle who. And these games are kind of a grind more so than an air show that we want to see. As far as fantasy is concerned. So I don't love the call for Michael Thomas. Obviously those first 2 weeks you referenced last week, yeah, he had some good weeks and some good targets and all that, but that was when Chris Olave was just cutting his teeth in the league. I think he's at this point, like he's kind of clearly the alpha in that pecking order, and Thomas is number 2 for looks through the air. So I'm a little bit worried that as a second option, he gets a little bit shut down in this matchup against a tight division game that both teams kind of need.
No, I hear you. I mean, I think kind of looking at that matchup, Michael Thomas does play pretty physical. Like I said, I'm kind of looking for just kind of those hard earned points, which I think he's shown he's still getting kind of those short to medium route looks. So as long as he just racks up, 10, 11 points, and if he can luck out in the red zone touchdown, that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. Again, that maybe that 17, 18 point range. But yeah, we'll definitely see. I think he and Olave will definitely get his looks, but sometimes it's kind of a flip the coin who's gonna do well. You want me to cover Ethan's pick here?
Yeah, let's fire him in there. Give me both of them right in the middle. Let us get after him while he's not here.
Yes, looking forward to that. So Ethan's going back to that Chargers Raiders game. So this is what he was having a dilemma with, and I think he wanted to get Davante Adams in the game, but then when he looked at it, he's like, "Hey, give me Allen on the other side of the ball," and then he thinks Jakobi Meyers for 5,500 is going to be involved quite a bit. So Jacoby's kind of a good story. As far as fantasy goes over there, his career's not dying over there with the Raiders. He is getting targets, he is getting looks. So I think another game. Both secondaries really can't guard anyone. So I think if you throw any wide receiver out there against these secondaries, they're going to score some fantasy points. I think that's his stats here this week with Jakobi Meyers. I don't mind it. I think it's kind of I put him in the similar tiers MT this week, but definitely a better game as far as secondary wide receiver secondary matchups go. What do you think on Jakobi?
I think my Patriots could really use Jakobi Meyers right now. That's what I think about that. We have Juju over here acting like he has no idea how to play wide receiver, but that's I guess a story for another day and not on topic. Yeah, I'm with Jakobi Meyers this week. Should be a high passing volume attack. He's been good in the 2 games that he's played, and Adams got a massive target share the other night, but I think it's going to sniff a little bit more towards Meyers and even out a little bit. Meyers, when he's out there, is essentially relegated Hunter Renfrow to being irrelevant on the football field and definitely irrelevant from the fantasy landscape. So that job in the slot is definitely his. And he even lines up outside some as well. So I do like that call on Meyers.
Yeah, like I said, I don't mind the Myers call. I think in daily fantasy, you want to look for targets. That's the best indicator, especially in getting those PPR points. So not a bad find. The only question is, can the Raiders score touchdowns who are not named Davante Adams this year? So definitely see that. But I'll go ahead and say his last guy here on the pick 6 category. Next on the pecking order as far as price goes. He's going 4,500. Looking at that Minnesota Carolina game, Adam Thielen for 4,500. So another wide receiver here. It's funny. This is kind of Thielen's revenge game against Minnesota. So I think another guy. Thielen's kind of kind of the go-to guy over there in Carolina. It's not saying a whole lot because it's not a high-scoring offense, but another theme here, we're chasing volume and targets. So it's funny, Mr. DJ Chark, another beloved Weaver fan fan of Weaver's, had a decent week last week as well. But I think he's gravitating to that price 4,500 with Adam Thielen. So what are your thoughts with Mr. Thielen in Carolina?
Yeah, I mean DJ Shark had his one of his like 3 good games he'll have all year, where that's after being invisible for the first 2 weeks. That's just the DJ Shark experience. But as for his Adam Thielen take, I'm actually on board with it. He was one of the players I was going to bring up in this category, so I'll just keep rolling on him. Adam Thielen, 4,500 against his old team, the Vikings. And I know this is the guy that we were all kind of down on throughout the offseason based on his age and a young quarterback coming in there and all that, but he's exceeded 20 fantasy points in each of his last 2 outings. And he's averaging 8.3 targets per game, which is really, really solid for a $4,500 price point. Their game against the Vikings is the fifth highest opening over under on the board, so it should be at least a relatively high scoring affair. I'm not sure if Bryce Young's going to play or if it's going to be the Andy Dalton show again. I actually think it would be better for Thielen for this week if Andy Dalton gets on the field. I mean, I know Bryce Young's the future, but Dalton showed that he could support multiple receivers last week in the passing game. So I just think that would even lend itself even further to Adam Thielen. But either way, even if Bryce Young's back under center, I think Thielen's a good play here at a cheap price point just to chase some targets and going expensive like the way that I did with the Philadelphia defense as well as Tyreek Hill. I'm happy to save a little bit of money here on Thielen, and hopefully he can find the end zone against his old teammates in this one.
I think you just have a soft spot for red-haired football players.
He's barely a redhead. He's no Hayden Hurst.
No, okay. I guess I'll say the Red Rocket with Dalton. I think you're pulling another start for Dalton over
I hear
Mr.
you.
Bryce Young.
Yeah, I thought you were going with Thielen. I was like, I don't think Thielen has red hair. I know who my fellow redheads in the world are, and yeah, Thielen's not one, but Andy Dalton, my guy, is definitely on that list. He can still sling it for an aging backup quarterback. I'll say that. But that's who I got for my first one. I'll just close it out with my second one here, and then I'll toss it back to you for the last pick 6 one here. I'm actually going with your boy from last week. Going to take with Tank Dell. He's going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's $4,600. I'm not sure when DraftKings is going to catch on here, but Tank really is. He's been that guy the last couple of weeks here. Seen 17 targets and for 217 yards, and he's reached the end zone twice in his last 2 games. And he's still only $4,600. So he's just still undervalued here, which is great, which is what we're looking for in this category. He's been WR13 in PPR this season. He's going up against a Pittsburgh team that's gotten absolutely destroyed by receivers thus far. You got them in week 1, and Adams absolutely murdered that secondary on Sunday night. And on the year, they're actually 28th in the league against the position, the wide receiver position. So the defense for Pittsburgh can be had through the air. I think the case of this is Tank Dell kind of coming into his own with a young player in CJ Stroud, and I'm just trying to stay hot on this one here. I don't think you're going to fight me too much after you took your victory lap on Tank Dell in the Told You So segment here, but let me know what you think.
Yeah, I'm still kind of loving my victory lap with him. But yeah, I think you're kind of building the case where is Stroud kind of finding his connection here in the next couple of years with another wide receiver with Dell. So hopefully he kind of turns into that Amon-Ra St. Brown story, of a couple of years ago, kind of emerging in that Houston wide receiver course. So I like it. I mean, I would just say like the Steelers may cause a little bit more pressure on Stroud. So hopefully Dell still has time to break away and give you those long catches. I mean, it was 5. He did only have 5 catches, though. It did go for 145. He had 2 kind of busted plays. So hopefully he can still find him out there. But I love the player. So hopefully, he keeps rising week to week. So I'm not sure if that was the answer you're looking for. Sometimes I like to find them when they're cheaper. And then like you said, he's still cheap, but he did raise $900. But yeah, I'm hoping he takes the place of Robert Woods in that lineup is just the clear cut, one A or one B to Nico Collins.
Yeah, fair enough.
And
I mean, sometimes going back to the well, second week in a row doesn't always work out as well. But I think that the matchup's good enough here where I'm willing to pay just a little bit more than I did last week. $900 more to get him in your lineup. Still a cheap price point for under 5,000. But who else do you have here? Who else are you sneaking into your lineup for cheap this week?
Agree. So, yeah, I'm gonna try to go 2 for 2 with a super cheap wide receiver. I mean, I mentioned I had Josh Allen as my bullish buy, paying 8,200, so I gotta go cheap in this section. So I'm gonna go 3,300 wide receiver. I'm gonna go Calvin Austin. That same game, I'm going Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm gonna try to find another diamond in the rough here. I kind of like Calvin Austin kind of emerging in that Pittsburgh wide receiver core. He had 6 targets last week. He did have a tutty. But here's a couple things that I'm really liking for this week. Where Deontay Johnson's still on IR. Just learned that Allen Robinson has an ankle injury too. So no Allen Robinson, no Deontay Johnson. And then also on the other side of the ball, Houston Texans put Stingley on the IR. So no stud cornerback for Houston. So I honestly think that Calvin Austin has a chance of being the target leader in Pittsburgh, where we know Pickens gets some of those deep looks, but I think in that Canada ran Matt Canada ran offense, I think they need those shorter routes that Deontay Johnson replicates. So if Calvin Austin can kind of fit in that role, he's my go-to play as my cheap play of the week. So I'm kind of letting a lot ride with Calvin Austin this week, but he's my cheap pick six play this week.
Okay. I mean, hey, you hit on Tank Dell super cheap last week, and maybe this is the week Austin comes out and does his thing. Obviously, he looked explosive on that long touchdown play that he had against the Raiders on Sunday Night Football. And I, for the sake of a lot of my dynasty rosters, where I'm kind of stashing him there deep on my bench, I hope this one pans out. So I like it. It's some good analysis there. Obviously, checking out the injury report is huge, is for the personnel that's going to be on the field, both for the player that you want for his teammates and also for the guys he's going to be going against on the other side. So good calls there. I think a lot of good calls in this section here tonight between the three of us, which is awesome. But let's move on to the under the lights category. I love that song, man. It always gets me going every single time. Brings me back to my youth when I was younger, thinner, a lot of other things that days gone by, that's for sure. But before we make this too depressing, let's talk about this this big game coming up here on Thursday Night Football. We got an NFC North battle. We get the Lions visiting the Packers. Dectroit opens up. It's just a 1-point favorite. So this is basically a pick'em game. And the over-under opened up at 45.5. So decent mark there compared to the other games on the slate for this week. Looks like both sides are going to be getting their starting running backs back into the fold. Aaron Jones and David Montgomery were both out on Sunday, but it looks like they're going to be ready to go for Thursday, at least trending in the right direction, which is awesome. Obviously, double check on that closer to kickoff. This is a tough game for me here to pick. I think just because I see both of these teams kind of in the same tier. They're both 2-1. They both have some blemishes, and they both have some strengths as well. If I have to pick it, which is part of the job around here, we like picking games, so I'll do it. I'm going to lean Green Bay. I'll probably just pick them on the money line rather than play the spread. Get a little bit better odds there. This is a tough divisional game. They're always a little bit tighter than we think that they're going to be, and I think the home field plays in a factor here for Green Bay. If you remember, the Lions knocked them out of the playoff contention on the last day of the season in Lambeau last year. So I think that's going to be on their minds here a little bit as well, just providing a little bit of extra motivation for Green Bay to pull out what's going to be a tightly contested game here. I actually like the under in this game. I think it's under 45.5, but I think the Packers come out probably by a field goal or something close to that. Well, I guess what do you think of that, and what are your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I think good analysis there. I'm kind of with you. Kind of staying away. I guess I haven't decided on the winner yet, but I too like the under. So it's 45.5. I would probably say just move the line a little bit, maybe go like 48.5, take the under. Some people just say, hey, why not just take the over 45? But you know how betting goes. You always just miss it by one point. So just play it a little safe. Take the under 48.5 is kind of my train of thought for this week. So I
Yeah,
guess
are you
along
gonna
the
bet? Are
same
you gonna bet that straight up 48.5, or are you just gonna toss that into a parlay? Do you think?
knowing me and my parlay all day, parlay all night attitude, I'll probably throw it in a parlay, but if you want to
I
be
knew that was
safe,
gonna be. I
maybe.
knew that was gonna be the answer. I knew it, the tree I was working up when I asked it.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about parlays is like you usually lose on them, but you know even if you're a good bettor, at the end of the day, usually it's that one last leg that you can't hit. So, uh, yeah, probably the smart thing is take it straight up too, but to have fun, I usually like throwing it in parlays too. But I guess along those same lines, both teams' defenses are kind of surprising this year. I'm kind of impressed with Detroit's. We used to pick on them a lot in daily fantasy, and then especially their run defense. I think they've really tightened a lot of things up, and then even their pass rush with Hutchinson too. So I think it's a little more even from a defensive battle side of things. Um, Another one you want to check out the injury report on. You got Aaron Jones for Green Bay. You got Bacchiardi, or I can never pronounce his last name right. But left tackle for Green Bay. He's been out for what, like 2 seasons, but kind of waiting on his return. And then you have Jair Alexander, who didn't play last week, but he is kind of revving to go this Thursday. So I think they definitely wanted him for this divisional game. So with all that being said, I do like the under. I like the defensive play. Looking at the individual matchups, like we always talk about. So with all that being said, I'm going with captain. I'm gonna actually go because I had a list of players I wanted to make sure I had in my lineup. I'm gonna go with the third option for Detroit. I'm gonna go with Khalif Raymond for my captain this Thursday night. And like I said, I just wanted a couple players. I wanted Goff, I wanted Dobbs, I wanted Musgrave, I wanted Dillon, I wanted a couple guys in my lineup, and Khalif Raymond was really the only way I could get them because opposed to other teams, you can't really find that many cheap guys like under 2,000 with both of these teams. You need some of those stars in there. They don't really have those diamonds in the rough like some of the other, like the Calvin Austins of the world. So I went Khalif Raymond. He gets involved. He can get the short plays. He can get some deep catches too. So it's kind of a shot in the dark, but I do he does get his looks. And then, like I said, it's really a play to get the other guys I wanted in the lineup too. So I want Raymond for my captain for this Thursday.
You love getting your cheap captains in there so you can fill out the rest of your lineup with as many high profile pieces as you can. Not a bad way to build it. I don't have Raymond in my lineup at all, so I actually think the targets are going to be going elsewhere. So I guess I'm inclined to disagree with you just based on the manner in which I've chose to build my lineup, including my captain spot here. And I'm going with the tight end position, but I'm sticking with the Lions. I'm going to go Sam Laporta in this one here, coming off his breakout game last week. You can kind of see this coming here just based on his usage early in the year. Week 1, 5 targets, 5 receptions, 39 yards. Week 2, 6 targets, 5 catches, 63 yards. And then last week, he kind of blew up here, 11 targets, 8 receptions, 84 yards, and a score. The hype train has officially left the building on Laporta, but he's still, to get him into your captain slot, it's still, I'll say only $12,000, which is a decent mark, but it's not going to break the bank on you, if you will. If you do that, you can still get both quarterbacks in your lineup. And you can I snuck a kicker into my lineup because I always seem to do that. I went Carlson from Green Bay, and then a couple other guys as well. Josh Reynolds was the ancillary piece for the Detroit Lions that I chose to go with. You went Raymond. I'm going Reynolds, who got off to a really strong start in his first 2 weeks before I think he got shut out last week, but I think there's a natural bounce back coming there. Then the last guy in my lineup is Luke Musgrave. He's another rookie tight end here, so I've got double barrel rookie tight end action in my lineup, and I like him, and I know Ethan likes him too. That's his call out here for his captain's play. He's actually going with Musgrave, and I was actually back and forth between him and Laporta in that spot. I just think we've seen a little bit more target volume from Laporta thus far, so he has a little bit more of a stable role, which is why I decided to roll with him over Musgrave. But Musgrave is a guy who's been really close to kind of having that breakout that Laporta had last week thus far. You know, he kind of had a quiet game in week 2, but he had that moment against Chicago in week 1 where he caught the long pass but kind of fell down and wasn't able to get into the end zone. And then he had a solid game against last week at home against the Saints, but he was running. There was a play. He was running down the seam, and he looked like he was wide open. And there was a chance that he scores on that play too, if Jordan Love's able to get it to him. And as good as Jordan Love's been playing to start his career as a starter, he did miss Musgrave on that play, overthrew him by a good bit there. And I just think that if he had put that on him, we kind of thinking about Musgrave a little bit differently here. So he's had a few near misses thus far. I like the 8 targets that I saw from him last week, and I'm just willing to roll with him here. This week, the Lions do give up points against tight ends as well, so that does play a role as well. So Ethan likes Musgrave a lot. I like him a lot too. He's in my lineup, but I did go with Sam Laporta as my captain for this week. So I guess I'll let you react to both here. How do you feel about us both rolling with rookie tight ends as our captain slot for this week's Under the Lights matchup on Thursday?
Yeah, I was gonna say the battle of the rookie tight ends. So I mean, I like both guys. You know, I think I called out Laporta in the preseason, one of the sleepers of the year. I think he's piecing out to. I mean, I know it's like so early, but he's piecing out to beat Pitts' rookie year. Hopefully, he keeps up the pace there. Musgrave, I think we've talked about Musgrave as well. I think with Christian Watson, I think at this point he's questionable. He may make a return. We may be on a snap count. Either way, I think we just said we like the under. So a lot of times when you like the under, that tight end play comes in handy. So I like both plays. Honestly, like for me, it was just a matter of like working the working the balance out and trying to get the guys I wanted in the lineup. So there's a lot of guys I like on both teams, and unfortunately, you just can't get obviously can't get them all in. So this one I felt was like a roll of the dice game. Like I think it could really go a lot of different ways. We can either be right on the money or way off too. I mean, it could also be one where you get like both kickers in. You have like 6,000 left or 4,000 left to spend on your lineup at that point too. So sometimes those lineups even win. But who are we kidding? I do think like Jordan Love has kind of surprised us. They, in that offense has scored a little bit better than what I thought they would to start the year. So it could be more high scoring, but at the end of the day, I think the way that we're talking, I like the battle of the tight end matchup. It's also a good story with the battle of the rookies. So I don't hate it. I'm going with my boy Khalif Raymond. I think he's just like kind of that boomer bust guy. I'm hoping he can just break it open, but that I'm just going to call out as definitely a shot in the dark there with Raymond.
Okay, you're confident in your guy Raymond, but you like the battle of the tight end. This game could go any direction, and honestly, it's close as competitive as the game's probably going to be, and hard to pin down who's going to win it. I think pinning down who's going to do well in DFS in this game is equally as difficult. So that's what makes it interesting. That's what makes it fun, and that's why you need us here on Sunday Surefire to help you navigate through these difficult ones, because you don't want to be the one watching the game who doesn't have any type of skin in it from a DFS standpoint. So don't be that one. But you're tuning in here to the right place for sure. So that's a good place to start. And let's go to these. Let's move on from this and just finish up here with some hot takes.
This is why I'm hot. This is why I'm hot. This is why I'm hot.
All right, yeah, I'll kick off. This is why I think I'm going to be hot here, and why I'm hot next week. Hopefully, I can turn my hot take into a told you so next week. I'm going to go with my boy Calvin Austin again. I'm going to say he gets over 18 fantasy points. It seems like that's not a big deal, but any guy over 3,300 scoring over 18 points in fantasy is saying you're going to be in the double digits. So I like Calvin Austin. I say also combine that with my other pick six player, MT and Calvin Austin. So if you take I'm going to gravitate towards reception. So go Calvin Austin getting 4+ receptions and Michael Thomas getting 5+ receptions in a parlay. Could be a nice little parlay there. that I may throw in with another game. Maybe the Green Bay under. I might start start it off for the week. So going my boy Austin and MT, and then Austin's gonna score over 18 points this week.
Okay, getting spicy. Like it a lot. So I'm gonna tell you why I'm gonna be hot here with this one, and I'm going to a unit that's been under a lot of criticism to start the season. That's the Pittsburgh Steelers running back room, and I'm gonna talk about Najee Harris. I think Najee Harris is gonna have 100 or more yards and a touchdown this week. And I didn't talk about Najee in our episode because he was kind of sort of priced in no man's land at 5,500, but I do think he comes through this week for fantasy managers. He is in my lineup. Thus far, he has not exceeded 65 rushing yards this year. He's also yet to score on the season, so he hasn't accomplished 100 yards or a touchdown yet. And in his last 28 games, he's rushed for under 100 yards in 26 of those. So only on 2 occasions dating back to 2021, which was his rookie season, towards the end of that campaign, has he given you 100 yards. So this definitely qualifies as a hot take for those reasons, but this is really more so all about a bad Houston run defense this week that I think this is an opportunity for them to get that running game going. And Mike Tomlin wants to run the football. He typically does it with one running back. I do think Warren's kind of creeping in on Najee's workload, but Najee still had 19 carries on the ground a week ago in a positive game script against the Vegas Raiders. And I think they're going to be in another positive game script here against Houston. I think this is kind of their get right moment as an offense. And I think if they can establish some of that identity that you think of when you think of Pittsburgh Steelers football, kind of that hard nosed smash mouth football, this is the spot to do it. And I think Najee breaks through this week. And if he doesn't, you should be very, very concerned as a fantasy manager, because this just feels like a blow up opportunity for him that he does not want to miss out on.
I guess I agree with that. I got my boy Austin, so hopefully, maybe to make it even juicier, maybe they throw a reverse to Najee, and he pulls a Keenan Allen last week, and Najee throws a touchdown to Calvin Austin. So maybe we can add that. Now we're getting really spicy there.
This is that's spicier than the remix of This Is Why I'm Hot.
I agree.
The good old days are definitely gone, my man. I won't get all depressed about it like I did earlier, but that was a fun episode to whiz through here. I think we got the tables pretty well set for you folks for week 4. Thanks again for tuning in here. Continue to check us out on Twitter or X, whatever the heck you want to call it. Check us out on Discord and obviously SundaySurefire.com. We are very much accessible to you folks. If you have any last second lineup advice or any type of DFS questions, hit us up on any of our social medias. We are around. We are not going anywhere, folks. And until next time, peace.